Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast, your ticket to all things college football. Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? Join us as we talk college football from the national championship to college rivalries to bowl games to the Heisman Trophy to which conference is the best. We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between.
The GSMC College Football Podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. This is Ethan Orfe, host of the College Football Podcast on GSMC Podcast Network, and we're going to be in for an excellent day, I believe. We're going to talk about some college football rule changes, potentially going into effect between on the field stuff and off the field stuff, some Tagovailoa landing spots for the NFL draft, just some of my thoughts on him as a player, rather, the combine, some Jalen stuff. We're going to get into all of that, but first, the NCAA Rules Committee proposes a 2-minute limit on replay reviews. Now, replay or instant replay reviews, looking at calls, all that stuff has been one of the bigger topics in sports, professional sports, collegiate sports for quite some time. And it's really been getting out of hand. The national championship game, I remember I was out at a bar watching the game and I made it back. It was halftime. Still, before I came, when I came back, it was about a 30-minute drive from, and I left at halftime, came back, still halftime, and the game started at, I believe, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and it was almost pushing 10 before third quarter really got going. I was like, this game's getting so long, and it's not even, that has nothing to do with, per se, the 2-minute rule or this new 2-minute rule or replays or anything like that. It's more just the game was really, really long, but games have been feeling long for a long time, and replay definitely has something to do with it. And when it gets down to the last few minutes, calls get even more amplified, and you want to make sure that the call is right, but at the same time, how much time can you dedicate to get something right? And if it takes you 5 minutes to get a call right, then maybe it's too inconceivable to really change what you had on the field. And at the end of the day, somebody's going to be mad, right? Somebody's going to be upset. Somebody's going to say they got robbed. Somebody's going to say that they were slighted by the refs. The NCAA has conceivably created a conspiracy. They want X team to win. They want this, that, or the third to happen. It was the money. Vegas, they want this happen, this, that, and the third. The ref had it out for this, that, and the third player or team. They don't like this, or they had money on the game. I don't really think you're just going to get that. If you go on Twitter, sports Twitter, there's always a conspiracy going on. There's always a sell job. There's always a inside job on who gets this, who gets that. Why does this person win so much, or why does this team get so many calls? Happens all the time in basketball, football, baseball. It's going, especially, baseball is kind of different right now because the Astros thing, but even then, so it's the same concept. So, they're trying to speed up the game because at the end of the day, the game has been too slow. It's been too slow in a lot of sports, and everybody's trying to find ways to speed up their games and to move things along. So after 2 minutes, enough might be enough. That is at least what it seems to be the mindset of NCAA Football Rules Committee, which proposed this 2-minute limit on replay reviews on Friday while meeting in Indianapolis. And, if you get 2 minutes, it's time to wrap it up. This is the Steve Shaw, the Secretary, Rules Editor, and National Coordinator of Officials. That's what he told ESPN. And if you're 2 minutes and you don't know the answer, it's time to let it stand and not continue to drag the process out. And it was just one of several rule changes that were proposed in Indianapolis. One was in an attempt to curtail pregame on-field incidents. And the committee also recommended game officials to be on the field 90 minutes before the game starts instead of the current 60 minutes. Another change would allow players ejected for targeting to stay in the team's bench area instead of heading directly to the locker room, which I think is a really good rule change because it kind of seems like you target somebody or you get called for targeting, which could even be a bogus call because even during the playoffs this year, and there was 2 targeting calls. One was very apparent and the other was not very apparent. And even if, this player is called for targeting, you still should have the right to be with their team, with the guys that they, came to battle with or got through the whole season with. It just seems a bit asinine to send somebody all the way out of the stadium and essentially be booted out of the game. Like, it doesn't feel like, for some reason, targeting never feels like a true ejection. It's not like in basketball where you yell at the ref, get 2 techs, and you're out of there. It's more just like most times you're trying to make a football play and you lower your head and you got to be out of there. And it's unfortunate, but it's a rule to protect players and it's got to be enforced. But at the same time, shouldn't deem you as this vilified figure. You have to make this walk of shame to your team's locker room and you got to sit there, especially in like big stage games. Like, I would be extremely upset myself if I got called for targeting and I had to go in the locker room, no matter if, if I didn't mean to do it, of course. That's it. That's the end of my game. And I don't even get to be on the sideline and cheer on my teammates. And that sucks. I wouldn't want that to happen for anybody. So that's an interesting rule change that I would like to see implemented. None of these rules, so to speak, will be in place, and they will have to be, discuss possible changes on April 16th, when they have the NCAA Playing Rules Oversight Panel. So, more proposals coming out of the NCAA. Coming back to the 2-minute thing though, this should have no problems working. I don't know why it would have problems working. I think it's one of those things where it makes sense. I don't think there's going to be a dramatic change to how it affects on the field, the game, or the integrity of the game, or people like that. I think what's going to happen is we're going to see a gigantic 2-minute shot clock when people are discussing certain plays or certain flags or, this player is under review. No, I don't believe that at all. In fact, I don't even think people will see a big change about it. I think what's really going to happen is it's going to force, broadcast teams to continue this strategy of pushing in ads during timeouts or during on-the-field stoppages in the middle of the game without changing to the full ad. So you know how they bring an ad near the bottom of the screen or on the sides or anything like that, and they play the ad while the game is still going on, but, it's in stoppage. So that way you're not technically removed from, the broadcast. However, they still get the ad slot in, and I think they're probably going to do more stuff like that because without a doubt, when you see something go to replay and it's questionable and it can take a while to decide, you definitely can slide in 3 ads in there, and they do that, and it gets done a lot, and that's how people usually fill in ad time, because, eventually there will be a call that has to be reviewed, There's a lot of scoring plays that have to be reviewed and all this. So eventually things will have to be looked at with greater detail. But this 2-minute thing, all it just means is either if they go to break, they can't go to break for very long. And 9 times out of 10, I think we'll just see them not go to break really at all. And they'll just do this 2-minute, ad showcase on the side screens, or bring up roll banners on the lower thirds or things like that to, get that ad money in, the revenue, the money. Everything is about the bottom dollar. So I don't think that they're going to lose out on money, while sacrificing, those precious seconds and precious minutes of, people reviewing plays. It's all part of the big money scheme, all part of the big game. So I can't wait to put on my stopwatch app on my phone and time all of these replays to see if, the rule gets followed. What's the punishment if somebody fails it? I don't know. It's still a proposal, though. But that's it. So let's take a break, and then we're going to get into some transfer rule stuff.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
So when you think of the whole name, image, and likeness debate in college football or in NCAA period, the first things first you think about is the last thing we talked about last week or the week before, I can't remember, about Capitol Hill and, the NCAA president basically getting berated by legislators and guys who make decisions, lawmakers, and so to speak, really try to bring their knowledge to the forefront by telling them this shouldn't have waited so long to have a plan. So now everything is starting to come into fruition. It's like a broken clock, like your dad's old watch, not the old watch that still works, but the old watch that has been collecting dust in the back of the drawer that you always thought was pretty clunky, but had a bit of charm. And then try to get it started up again. You get it to the watch shop. That there's only one in every town. So, maybe watch fixing, fixing up jewelry, fixing up old watches. Maybe watch repair is the lane to go. Regardless, you go to the watch shop, get it fixed up. But it's taken forever to come back because they had to order new parts, and because the watch is so old, it's still kind of rusty, has a rusty look to it, but it starts to finally start clicking, but it clicks very slow. That's the NCAA. It's old and it clicks very slow. So it's starting to click a little bit faster now because of the transfer rule, as now the transfer rule is seeming to be a big catalyst within the name, image, and likeness, the NIL debate for compensation in the NCAA. So last Tuesday, the NCAA stunned many in the college sports world by announcing a proposal to change the policy dating back in the 1960s under the idea of first-time transfers in all sports would immediately be able to compete at their new school. So no longer will you have to sit a year as they did under the old legislation. Not only was the statement timing a surprise, but so was its path. The proposal is being fast-tracked to go into effect this fall. So, a lot of coaches, some athletic directors, are not really feeling this rule. And some people think that this might be bad for kids just to be able to say, oh yeah, I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling this situation. I'm bouncing out, I'm transferring, and I'm gone. And some coaches are like, well, this kid will say, oh, he's gone, he's transferring. And then 3 months later down the line, you're getting a text from the same individual saying that, I was kind of hot-headed. I made a rash decision and it was a big mistake. And now they're gone. I don't know about that one. That seems a little bit far-fetched to me. As far as the situation, the person writing this article claims that the coach claims that this sort of thing happens quite often. I'm not going to say that it doesn't, but I'm also going to say that most guys who who want to transfer probably do it because they're not getting playing time, and there's no time like the present, and especially in a position-specific realm that football is, you only get so many shots. And you only have so much time to play, to prove yourself, to move to the next level. So at least one conference administrator expressed surprise at the announcement and said his league received no warning. Meanwhile, Todd Berry, exclusive director of the American Football Coaches Association, a group opposed to the proposal, was completely shocked by the NCAA's statements and said that FBS conferences were against the idea as recently as last summer. Something has happened recently. I don't know if it has to do with the NIL or what. Of course it does. Of course it has everything to do with the NIL. Because if it didn't, the rule would probably still be strongly in place as it was. But because the pressure of lawmakers and students and athletes alike, the NCAA dropped the ball, and now everything is crumbling beneath the snowball that they forever dropped from the mountain. And now it's just tumbling over and tumbling over and tumbling over and tumbling over to the point to where they can't stop the tumbling, essentially. The tumbling will keep going. The transfer rule really should never have existed past maybe 20 years after its creation. What is the point? What are you holding out on? What are you stopping these kids from playing for? What are the reasons? I guess before, you didn't have a real reason to transfer unless something dramatic happened and the NCAA allowed it. But now, you have to be able to transfer because sometimes either a program or a coach or whatever, they might give up on a kid, or a kid might think that, he's just not going to get any playing time. He committed here, and he thought he was going to be the guy. He was going to be the starter. He was going to be the big name, the big guy on campus. Turns out that was not the case. And he doesn't feel like he's getting as much playing time. He's not getting as much, recognition. He's behind too many guys. And I really do think it happens a lot to, the guys who aren't true freshmen, of course, or the guys who don't prove enough to get playing time as freshmen. So then they have to build up and work, and then they get to sophomore year. And by sophomore year, if they're not getting anything going, they got to start thinking about their future, man. Because either they're going to stay one more year and play for their senior year and try to prove something then, or they got to strike while the iron's hot to their idea, and they got to go get it somewhere else. And I don't think that's a bad problem. I think that's something smart that some kids do have to make, especially if you're like playing a quarterback. Quarterback's a 3-year position, man. Not to say that they're all 3-year positions essentially in the NCAA, but quarterback, to get like a full range of what a guy can do, and you want to be the guy, you got to play through 3 years, at least 2. You got to start for at least 2. And if you really don't see the field much because a true freshman came in at a time where you were supposed to be the guy for another year, that sucks. That's not good for you. I wouldn't feel good that somebody came in who was the coach either felt better or is objectively better than you. But it doesn't mean that you are the worst. You should be able to transfer and go make a start somewhere else, or go, make a name for yourself somewhere else to keep your draft stock going and keep your namesake going. Because at the end of the day, that coach, no matter what happens, you can be the coach of Colorado today, and then tomorrow you're the coach of Michigan State. And nobody's ever going to question you. You don't have to wait 1 year to start coaching. You don't have to wait 1 year to start recruiting. You just get to go. And yeah, we know that they have the rule to where if a coach leaves, the incoming freshman, as long as you haven't been there for a semester, you get to basically void your letter of intent and you can go somewhere else. What does that do for everybody else? Now they just got to be stuck. And say if the guy who comes in is not a part of the system, or doesn't bring a system that, brings you along, or doesn't work best for you, all of a sudden you're stuck there. And it's either you don't play for a year and go somewhere else, or you stick it out and lose potential, statistics, or, your draft stock goes down depending on what you get placed in. So the transfer rule needs to change. I think it's a welcome change. This is just one of the part of the many things going on in sports under the player empowerment stuff, and it's trickling down to colleges. And if the NCAA wasn't so, heavy-footed on this sort of stuff, they dragged their feet for years, this probably wouldn't be attacking them so hard. But since they did, now they're getting out of control. Now they don't know what to do. And now they're just now they have to let a lot of things go in order to appease, small time, short-term decision-making stuff is going. And you can just kind of see that things are not going their way. So we're going to take a break here, and then we're going to get into some Tua Tagovailoa landing spots during the NFL draft.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
So this next segment has me a bit excited, but primarily because everybody has to hold their horses just a little bit. We all have to pump the brakes. We all have to hold out and just wait a minute, because Tua Tagovailoa might be going anywhere in this draft from ranges 2 to 10. In that range, he's probably not going to drop out of the top 10. That would be completely shocking unless there is something catastrophic that he's done to his draft stock, albeit another injury or, some off the field, something. Like, it just would be really, really hard for me to see him drop past that. But a lot of draft boards and mock drafts have him going to Miami. But that is pretty interesting that a lot of noise has been starting to chirp its way out of DC and out of Redskins camp. And I just want to take a moment to talk about this and about why is it that it seems like a lot of people. I have a friend, he's a Redskins fan. I asked him about how do you feel about Tua going to the Redskins? And he said that if the Redskins were to draft Tua at their spot in the draft, that he would resign as a fan, and that would be the end of it. And I was confused why this was. And he wants Chase Young, which, is not something that is super crazy to think about. Chase Young might be one of the best pass rushers we've seen in a few years, and that's been years with players like Joey and Nick Bosa coming out of the same school, and he might be better than both of them. So it's not that crazy to want Chase Young as your future defensive lineman / pass rusher to come into the league. The thing about it is, or at least my angle was with him, was if you pass on him, what are you banking on? As in Tua, you pass on Tua, what are you banking on? Are you banking on Haskins? And a lot of people say, oh, Haskins, he hasn't been able to, he was in a good situation when he was drafted. Essentially, he was drafted by Snyder, but not by the head coach, and the head coach didn't like Haskins, and thus he didn't get a lot of play time. And when he did, it was due to weird scenarios with the injury, and Keenum wasn't just playing well, so they put him in, and they were already losing. And at this point, his career trajectory is unknown. We don't know what he can be, but we kind of know what he is right now, and he's kind of still a prospect. It's really hard for me to call Haskins an NFL quarterback in a sense, because I don't feel like he got a fair shot at being one. So I can see where my friend is coming from with the idea of, you don't know what Haskins could be, but there have been some reports that Ron Rivera is not a big fan of Haskins either. And if Tua, if they're allowed to get Tua, that might be something that they definitely look into. And I was telling my friend this, and he was not happy about it, of course. And he thinks that this is a waste, because at the end of the day, you can build around and have an overall better team, and you don't need to have a superstar quarterback to essentially take you there. Yeah, it's true, you don't, but at the same time, it definitely helps. It definitely helps. I think you need to have somebody who can be a game changer, and I think Tua is more of a game changer than Haskins was in college. Tua was by far the best quarterback prospect coming out of the draft this year before injury, and then after injury, he's number 2. That's like, he'd only dropped one spot. And that was just because he got hurt in a very, very fluky way as well. So to look at it from that perspective, I'm not saying that Tua is some sort of slam dunk prospect, but there's definitely a lot more promise, and I think he has a lot more upside coming into the draft than Haskins did. And at the end of the day, what do you have to lose? There should be no reason why you have to double down on another year of Haskins, especially if you're not sure what he is. You don't know what he is. You're not sure. So what? At best, you go 7-9, because I highly doubt. I really just don't see Haskins bringing you guys as in Redskins and Redskins fans, the nation of Washington, D.C., bringing you guys to the playoffs by him. The quarterback position is too hard. It's the most important position in sports to try and fill for an organization, and it's the hardest one to fill. It's the hardest one to get right. And when you do get it right, it's like hitting the lottery. So why not try and strike gold again, right? Why not try to strike gold this time? And you don't have to suffer another season of, Haskins or another mediocre quarterback that you don't like. That's not going to get you anywhere, right? And then leading to that thinking, oh, well, if we stick it out with Haskins and it doesn't work, we just go into the draft again. And, you go into that Clemson quarterback draft, and you go into more and more, question marks at that point, because you don't know what the next season will bring. And at that point, you're not playing the game of, well, we're building around our players and going for best player available or, best position available for our needs, or, whatever your draft plan is. You're not doing that anymore. At that point, you would be drafting Chase Young, but it's not because you're betting on Haskins. It's because you just assume that, you'll be bad enough to get into the 1 or 2 spot. And then my point, that's just not how you should be playing competitive football anymore. At that point, it's just saying, you take this guy, but we don't really know where he fits. Or you're taking this guy, we know where he can go for our team, but I don't really think it will do anything. It won't add a plus to our win column. He's not going to be an instant plus guy to our success overall as a team, because, if we only can play one side of the football, we're going to lose games, or you're going to lose games. That's just how it is. Every team that is still struggling to find a quarterback, it's probably because they waited too long to get off of the quarterback they already have. Prime example, the Bears. There's just no way that the Bears don't draft a quarterback this year. I just have a hard time believing that they stick it out with Mitchell Trubisky again. I just don't think it's happening. All the Mitch supporters and truthers, believers, I just don't see it. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. It's time to move on. Cut your losses and try again in the draft. Because at the end of the day, you can't will yourself into a guy who's ready. Because they will show you a lot of signs to show improvement. And if they haven't shown it by year 1 or 2, it's time to cut bait. And I'm not proposing that it's time to cut bait on Haskins. I'm just proposing that you don't have to go through the whole process in the first place if you really don't feel like that's your guy. And that's all I was trying to say. And I think that Tua is a guy. I think he's one of the best guys that we will probably see in a few years. He has a good prototype to himself. We saw what he's able to do in high-stakes competition. He was able to win it at high-stakes competition where nobody thought he could do anything. We thought that game was over in the national championship, and he came in and handled his business like a pro. And winning matters. I think that's the same reason why Deshaun Watson was passed up on, is because a lot of people felt like there were more question marks. They didn't know all this, that, and the third, but they forgot that this guy was a winner. And I think Tua is a winner, and that should matter. And I think bringing somebody with a winning culture, somebody who's used to winning, should mean a lot. Not to say that Chase Young is not also used to winning, but the quarterback position is just a lot different. You just don't find, just like pass rushers are rare, quarterbacks that are good, like quality quarterbacks, the top echelon, it's like rarefied air. You just don't find it. All right, so that was my Tua take. Let's take another break, and then we'll go into some combine.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
I gotta admit, I wasn't really itching to go watch the Combine this year just because it's never been something that really gets me going. I like the draft Combine as far as what comes out of it. There'd be good takes, there'd be good observations, you see some numbers, and you see guys run really, really fast in a straight line, and you want to see who's faster at doing this or that, or you see what guys turnaround speed, and you see a lot of physical stuff, but then you see a lot of feel-good stories, like guys coming out of the Combine who really, really impressed people and move up. But honestly, after that, the Combine doesn't really do it for me, man. It's not something that I'd come back and think, oh, wow, yeah, can't wait for the Combine next year. I think it's just kind of like an ends to a means. Regardless, you always have to pay attention to the bigger names out there. So guys like Isaiah Simmons and guys like CeeDee Lamb, for instance, who had some really nice Combine days, showcased a lot of stuff. That play that, or not play rather, but that route that CeeDee Lamb did where he broke off the route and came and caught a really, really tough catch in the back of a makeshift end zone. That was insane, though. That, his footwork, or feet work, as, Shaquille O'Neal would say, was really, really put on nice display right there. I was very much impressed. I thought it was an excellent, excellent play. And then at the end of the day, people really eat that stuff up at the draft because a lot of guys don't watch as much college football or even any. And this is what some of their first interactions or first, viewings of some of these college guys that we've been watching for a few years, showcase their abilities and their talents. So you come to a guy looking for wide receiver help, a team that needs a wide receiver in the NFL draft, and you see something like that, automatically you think he's top class, like he's the best of the best. And this draft is really, 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 really good for wide receivers. So if you look at it from that big perspective, what are we doing here, man? Like, this is about to be I think this draft class is going to be really, 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 really powerful. And we're going to look back at it like it's, what was the draft class that Patrick Peterson came in? I can't remember. I think it was 2011, 12? Hold on. Yeah, he was drafted in 2011. I think that draft class was super, super filled with guys still in the league doing great things. You just have some years where guys are just really, really star-studded, and you never really know until maybe a few years down the line. But there have been some really, really good draft classes, and I think this is going to be another really excellent draft class. You're going to see a lot of good wide receivers come out, Alabama wide receivers, guys out of Oklahoma. You're just going to see so many good players. But Isaiah Simmons had a really, really good show out. He ran a 4.37 or 4.38 as a linebacker. That's like 6'3", 235 or something like that. That's insane. That's like, to put in perspective, Steph Curry is 6'3", and we think he's tall but lanky. But this guy is this is like Giannis at 6'3", and just running at full speed, 4.37, 4.38. That's really, really impressive. Like, he says that his comp, or he likes to see himself as a Tyrann Mathieu, to where you can play multiple positions, and you can be safety, or you can be a linebacker. I don't know if he can maybe play inside corner. He has the speed. I don't know if he has the necessary level of, ball skills and, being able to cover guys with, like, route running can be you definitely can see a display of route running when you see a guy who can't guard it or not. But at the end of the day, he has the speed and he has the athleticism to keep up with some guys. So it wouldn't be surprised in zone coverage, he might really be a zone animal. So whoever finds the way to Isaiah Simmons in the draft, congratulations, because I think that guy's a done deal. I think he's probably, when it's all said and done, I feel like he might be the best player to come out of this draft. And that's kind of strong to say, because it's not saying that I watched a whole bunch of Isaiah Simmons, but I just think that he just shows he was already good, and then when you have a combine that just is like icing on the cake, like chef's kiss stuff, that is it definitely gives people a different perspective on you as a player. Jeff Okudah, man, talk about one of the better cornerback prospects we've seen in the last few years. I think he was getting player comparisons to Stephon Gilmore, who, of course, is one of the, if not the best cornerback in the NFL. So this guy is 6'2", about 220, very physical at the line of scrimmage, can, bully you. If you're a smaller receiver, it can really, really get into you. Great ball skills in the air, knows how to have a nose for the football, has good hands for a cornerback, and he can just really, really defend on the outside, man. Like, he's really, really into man coverage, can really, really get at you, and he just seems to be all about bravado and swagger about himself that he carries. Just feels like a cornerback that you want on your side. And, he's been, draft boards and things like that are saying Jets, him and Jamal Adams on the same side. Whew. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I think he might be also one of those guys who's like a super lock. I mean, these are first round talented guys, and they're really, really showcasing the first round talent this year. And I mean as in themselves, but you can really see the difference between some guy who's in the first round compared to a guy in the second round. Because, sometimes you'll see guys fall and you'll see athleticism in like the first, like in the second round or the third round guys. You're like, he has first round athleticism. He can get going. He can move really well, but it just doesn't always seem to really put it all together. The technique isn't always there. Well, I don't know, man. This one, some of these guys have the package, man. It just looks like they have the package this year. And I think that's what the combine is really interesting to show, is like, who has the total package. We have a bunch of game tape. We have 3 years for most guys of seeing what you're capable of. And now we need to, see the physicals and see what you guys can do, on and off, cuts and just breakout speed and things like that. Because that's what, at the end of the day, it's kind of like that. You kind of need to know the numbers are nice. Stats are nice. People and the combine is kind of like a big NFL get together to talk about free agency stuff, NFL stuff, draft stuff without really going too deep. It's kind of like having like a pre-media day without having a media day for the NFL. So it's pretty interesting. And it all wraps up in college football news as well. Because you want to see these guys do well. You've been watching them for a few years. And you want to see people perform. You know, you put a lot of people put time investments into these players. You know, not only for following their favorite, either alma maters or favorite, you know, programs, but, you know, these players, you want to see them live out their dreams and, you know, make it to the big place that they've been working so hard to get to. So I always try to catch, you know, the combine in different ways now. I can't say I'm itching to always watch the combine, but, you know, social media has made the combine a lot more digestible to guys on the go or doing more other stuff that typically don't have time to sit and watch the combine all day. So shout out to social media for that one, because you don't need a full breakdown of somebody's combine. You can kind of watch the clips and see for yourself, because everything is just numbers at the end of the day. How fast can you go? How quick can you get out on this? How good can you catch a ball? That sort of stuff. But we're going to take another break, and then we're going to get into some Jalen Hurts combine.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
So, going into the draft combine weekend, we heard that people like Joe Burrow was not going to throw, or, of course, Tua can't throw because of injury, and other guys just decided not to throw as well. But Jalen Hurts, he decided to throw, and that was kind of a mini big topic because, as you know, Jalen Hurts, the two big things on him are accuracy and arm strength. Are two of the bigger things that Jalen Hurts has been known to struggle with, and he really, really impressed people during his combine display. People are now raving on about Jalen Hurts, saying that he really, really showed some touch. He showed some display of quarterbackmanship, or whatever you want to call it. And this is what I've been on for this whole time. Because even before the draft combine, there were small reports coming out of people that essentially don't matter in sports media as much as you think they do. It wasn't like some major big market guys with these takes, but some people were stirring up the old conversation of should Jalen Hurts go in as a wide receiver, or should he be a quarterback in order to get drafted, or things like that. Should he convert to a different position? And you already know what my stance is on that sort of stuff. I don't believe that you should have to essentially change your whole, position. Or should that be the go-to for guys who are essentially dual threat quarterbacks in college? But what's the word at the end of dual threat? Quarterback. They throw the football. They've been throwing the football since they were 5 years old. And all of a sudden they're just supposed to change and go to a different position. Regardless, Jalen Hurts really threw that thing around, so to speak. So he had a really impressive combine performance. not only on the field, but off the field, because a lot of coaches asked him wanted to see his football IQ, and on the whiteboard, he really impressed as well. So this is going to be really, really awesome for him and his draft stock. And I'm excited to see what this does for him in the draft. Some people are speculating that he might not even come out of the second round. And he might be a guy that a lot of people might, say is a sleeper guy, like sitting on the back of somebody's bench waiting for a shot. So I'm talking about the Bills, maybe a nice backup, possibly even somebody that maybe even the Saints look at, as Drew Brees is probably on his last year, and maybe they're not so sure about this Taysom Hill thing. We know Teddy Bridgewater is going to be out the door, so maybe even someone like the Saints, or maybe somebody like the Patriots, who are not sure about Tom Brady's future, or Tampa Bay. There's just a lot of teams that need quarterbacks or have room for quarterback growth in their programs or on their teams, on their franchises, that he definitely can fit on. And it looks like getting guys who are young, who can move and can throw the football, is becoming more and more of a thing in the NFL. And if you can, if you can set up an offense around their talents, around someone with the talents of Jalen Hurts, that's when you really find that sweet spot of really, really good offensive performance, and you can maximize a guy's talent like that, a la Lamar Jackson, or a la someone of lesser talents like Josh Allen, or anything like that. You can really, really tailor make an offense to people, and it's being shown more and more in the NFL that they are using some college systems, or they are using some ideas from college, and they're not just trying to convert these guys into pro style after they've been not playing pro style or don't know if that's what they are good at. And, there's guys not giving up anymore. They're not being stubborn, and they're not just going to say, I can't win with this guy. It's enough is enough. I'm done. And they just say, they give up. But that just is not happening anymore. Guys are showing more and more that they're willing to change their systems and build upon what already got that prospect or that quarterback already into this, this spot to be drafted and what their talent level is capable of. So people got off their high horses, and now everybody's really looking at what's the next evolution of the quarterback in this National Football League, and what's the next evolution of offense, I guess, what piggybacks off of that. So that's going to be really, really interesting to see how this works out for Mr. Hurts. I'm glad he had an excellent, day throwing the football, because, man, could you imagine if this didn't work out? I mean, Jalen was already stated, he had an Instagram post, or he tweeted, not proving anybody wrong, just proving myself right. Period. Blessed. Awesome tweet. Love tweets like that. Regardless, it could just been so bad if things went south, because people already had their doubts. People were foaming at the mouth, hoping, not like good people, but bad people who have nothing else better to do but just to hate on prospects, because they just want to be right so much to where a player is not good. They just want to see, like, oh, look, I guess this guy was right, because all it is a guess or an assumption, a smart guess, an educated guess on these players, if they're going to be good, if they're not going to be good. And at the end of the day, it's like kind of ego boosting. You can even say I'm trying to ego boost myself by thinking that Jalen Hurts would be a really good pro if he gets drafted, and if and when he gets drafted. But at the same time, there's guys who really, really get off to the idea that, somebody is going to suck. And they root against them their whole career. Every small nitpick, they're just like, see, look, I told you this guy isn't going to be good. See, look, I told you, because this small thing here, this guy is the worst guy ever. And this was a mistake. The team that drafted him made a mistake. Look here. And it's just nonsense. It's really, really weird how that works. And it's gotten worse and worse with, social media as it amplifies. Everybody has a microphone now, right? So everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a right to the opinion. But sometimes people are just really, really loud with their opinions that just have no basis to be where they are. I don't think some people's opinions are, dug up out of the earth, and they're just worms. There's no fertilizer, there's no plants, no nutrients, just worms. And that's really how I see it these days. It's just that people are looking to tear people down into the dirt just so they can get their worms. And I don't really know what doesn't make sense. He gets his degree, transfers to Oklahoma. And now I will say he didn't get this fair shot during the Senior Bowl game. It just didn't look like his performance was going to help him in any way, shape, or form during the draft. But then he comes out in this draft combine, comes to work, does his job, doesn't do any talking, doesn't do any, I am a player, and I'm going to play the game of football. I'm going to do what I need to do to get to where I want to be, and that's in the NFL. And that's what he's doing right now, and I really applaud him for this. And I'm just happy that he was able to live another day without having to be compared to being a wide receiver or being told to switch positions for another day. This is a win for Jalen Hurts support group, the committee, the chairman is happy. I'm not saying I'm the chairman, but I'm sure whoever is the Jalen Hurts support group chairman is ecstatic. We're going to take our final break now. We're going to take a final break, and we're going to get into our closing segment of the day.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
I would like to speak about bands. Now, I don't mean your Led Zeppelins or your Metallicas or your Zach Brown band or your, bands like that. I'm not talking about those type of bands. I'm talking about those big, large groups of students, individuals who dedicate their lives to go on the field, play during halftime, play in the bleachers, remix songs, get really, 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 really hype, trash talk, arguably the most on any sideline, and really, really know how to party. I'm talking about the marching band. The marching band. I love marching bands. I'm not a marching band player, never played in a marching band, never participated in band. I actually was an orchestra kid a long time ago, fun fact. But my sister was super into marching band. She did it her whole middle school and high school career. I played football, middle school and high school, So I did not get to see many of her performances until I graduated high school. But I will say, the band helps. You need bands around. In these, I guess in these collegiate games, high school games, it's necessary. They just make the environment so different, right? And I'm starting to, you start to go to some sporting events to where you hear so much of the same music, same big songs going on throughout the year, even songs from the previous few years that get remixed into stadium organ stuff like that. But there's nothing like being in like a collegiate atmosphere where it seems like a death bowl. Like it's just youthful angst, people yelling and screaming, a bunch of fans that are just fans. And then you have a band that can, maximize the potential of level of just fandom. Like a home band and their home crowd is getting fired up, is getting excited. Oh, bands feed off energy just as much as players do. If the fans are into it and getting really hype, then they'll feed into the band, and then the band feels like, man, this is bigger than me. This is bigger than just me playing the tuba. This is bigger than me just taking my mellophone out there and doing what I have to do, playing my notes. This is for the maximum enjoyment of these people in the stands to help pump these guys up so that way we all get to go home and we all get to celebrate a win as a community. Marching band makes me feel like there's a community within this whole liking the football team stuff. There's, just a different part of it. There's just a different team out there essentially. And then you get into the marching band battles, like sideline to sideline. One marching band tries to bring it and they may be more intimidating. They have more members, but then the other has more heart, They have more heart. They're playing some jams. They're getting down. And then when it's finally time for halftime, and the folks that stay, I applaud anybody who doesn't get up during halftime to go watch the band, and they weren't a part of band or don't really understand marching band stuff. Because I'll admit, I still don't really understand why you clap at certain times during marching band. I guess I never will, but I always found it interesting when I go to marching band competitions. There's marching band etiquette and stuff like that. But, people who don't know anything or never been to a marching band competition or anything like that, they're very, very intriguing. And so when you watch a marching band do their routine during the halftime show every year and they change it up or they don't change it up depending on the school, it's awesome, man, because they're out there, they're performing, and they really have to practice really hard to do all this. Keep in mind, these guys are playing full-blown instruments, different notes, different sounds, tempos, having to step with the right amount of, timings and stuff like that. Timing is so imperative in marching band. And sometimes we just let it go by the wayside. We don't even think about it. Like, they're making these performative moves. You got people twirling fire and stuff. There's a lot going on. So I say all this to say that college football, if there's one thing that collegiate sports have done right the whole time, is keeping marching band relevant, keeping it within, the system, letting them perform, letting them do stuff, because I'll tell you, bands can know how to get down. And if I get more hype hearing a band play the traditional, football songs to get people really, really excited and get into the game, or playing stuff like the Death March, or like stuff from Star Wars or John Williams and things like that, and remixing songs and playing like All the Lights or stuff like that. and it's 7:30 at night, and you're seeing the frost, like you're seeing the condensation in the air, or you're seeing sweat and heat, like heat evaporation coming out people's faces and stuff from yelling, and it just feels like football. Bands help me feel like college football, high school football is a different experience, and I tell you what, it wouldn't be what it is today without marching bands. So respect to all those people that are out there that do their thing during marching band, who go out there every summer. I see you guys all the time sweating it out, just like, not in the same way as the football players on top of the hill, but you guys are on the concrete of the school parking lot getting it in. And you know what? That takes heart, that takes dedication, that takes a whole lot more than what a mere fan would have to do. You guys are super fans, because like it or not, even if you don't know football, marching band is going to make you care about that team, because you're putting out every week, going to practice every Saturday. You're going out there to watch this team perform. And if your team sucks, it's going to really blow you away how much you have to keep yourself dedicated to something when there's no return. There's no entertainment value besides, the first quarter. And then after that, it's a toss-up. But marching band, you never know what you're going to get until you come out on that field and see what they can do. But you have to be prepared to perform at your best at all times as a marching band performer, I would assume. And, you always gotta, you gotta be ready so you don't have to get ready all the time. That attitude, I respect the heck out of people like that. Marching band people always have to be ready to put out their best at all times. So yeah. Side note, if the NFL knew what was up, or if the XFL just started bringing marching band, oh man, it would be a party. I would book a ticket to Tampa's game, because I think they're the closest XFL team to me. So I'd have to go travel to Tampa to go see it. But I definitely would go see it. Me and my dad used to go to marching band competitions all the time. Especially the HBCU bands. Those guys get down. Anyway, speaking of getting down, this will be the downbeat of the GSMC College Football Podcast, aka this is the end. This is the end of the College Football Podcast for the day. Thank you all for listening, especially on this college football marching band little mini story rant, cover piece, love letter, whatever you wanna call it. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to share the podcast, review it on whatever medium you do choose to listen to us, and don't forget to follow us on our social media. So that's our Facebook, Instagram, and our Twitter. This is Ethan signing off. See you guys next week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From football to basketball, baseball to MMA, and even soccer. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast.